The North-West Conference is done and dusted, but there are still some eye-catching developments. Premier Bushy Maape lost to Nono Maloyi in a move that some say may see his future in the office hang in the balance. Now, he declined a nomination to form part of the Provincial Executive Committee. Sysman Multoung is the North-West University political analyst and joins us live now. Sysman, thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's start with your reaction to the developments we saw in the Northwest as well this past weekend.
Hello, Bongwe. Greetings to your viewers. I think what we see in the province is something that will bring hope and a sense of direction, because the province has been under an interim structure for a while. And in the past 4 years, we've seen as well the number of premiers that have been changing. And it has been a province that we can say is defined by instability and divisions politically. So what is happening now is a sign of hope for the ANC hopefuls who are now happier to say there is a semblance of stability and the province can now move towards this agenda of unity when they know that there is a proper permanent structure. And that is legitimate because it has been appointed by the members, the branch members of the political party in that province.
How much of a reality, though, is it going to be when it comes to this issue of unity? Because we even saw the senior ANC leader, Obed Bapela, for example, talking about the importance of, this new structure to focus on unity. Otherwise, they will continue to lose support of the people. But given how deep the factions have run over the past few years, how much of a reality is this unity going to be on the ground?
Now, this is part of a political rhetoric. Unless the ANC as a political party itself would come very hard on its members who are not really working to support the project of a unity, it will be something that will be a mere rhetoric. So what we need to see now happen is that we've had the story before. As alias Polokwane, we've heard about this. Every period of transition is followed by that talk of we have to go into a united ANC. So for the realist, it will be, we'll see when things happen. But for those who are still idealists, it will be something that will say maybe there's something different that would come out. But for me, it's still that on that side of saying, let's see as things happen. It will not be easy, but let's see if there's anything different for it. But it is true, as much as the party is divided, it does not focus and work effectively towards the empowerment of communities. And that will cost it the votes.
So do you think, though, that we could see a different picture emerge as far as governance and politics are concerned? Because we've seen the intertwining of this as well, leading to some serious service delivery issues on the ground.
No, the ANC is the ANC. And the political system in South Africa is as such that a party that is in government will also wield more influence in the state. Therefore, we'll not see the difference between that. The ANC will always use the state. I think it's every political party in South Africa. It would want to persuade the state for what it wants to achieve politically. Now, the question is that the ANC in the North-West province, has it envisioned a different picture for that province? Is it really committed to something different? And that is what the critics are looking at, to say, as much as there is a political transition in terms of the PEC, there isn't much at the political level in the state and province-wise that we will see in a very short period of time. This process, maybe others will say, this is even it's a process of that natural death or in the ANC. We might even see things becoming even worse as much as they see, because of the deep rootedness of the factions.
And talking about the transition that you're talking about, do you think it's the end for Bushy Maape as premier and we could see a new premier come in?
You remember there are some members who are trying or deciding to take this appeal of a conference to the Constitutional Court. My reading of it is that Nono Maloyi would wait for that to play out first. You don't want to rush, remove Bushy Maape, become a premier, and then the Concord overrides these things, turns it upside down, and you have to vacate office again. I think you would want to wait for it and then see what happens out after that. I think from there on, when there is some certainty in terms of legitimacy of the conference, then he would want to take over, because the whole thing plays it's a repeat of a scenario. You'd remember from as early as when President Zuma came in, there's always talk about two centers of power. We see in how who's now the now chairperson in
Panyaza Lesufi and David Makura, those dynamics.
Panyaza Lesufi also came out to say, no, I will not remove Makura. Makura will play his position out. It is something Zuma was also crying for, to say, when Ramaphosa is coming, allow me to finish the term. So this is that natural debates in the ANC because of how that the one who's a premier should be the chairperson of the party itself. So they intertwine the state and the party in that sense.
And interesting, I mean, you talk about the Gauteng, and we saw some reports suggesting that, the premier might be making way for the Gauteng chair. At the same time, one thinks of Limpopo, where the chair is serving a second term. So what does it mean for the premiership of that province? But let's park that for a second. Let's talk about this conference in the Northwest. I mean, it's happening against the backdrop of a dire state of municipalities. You're looking at, some reports that talk about this organizational report that paints a frightening picture when one thinks about the state of municipalities in the province. You're even seeing claims of gangsters having, taken things onto themselves, so much so that they're deciding who gets the tender or not. How did things get to this point?
You remember, I think it was Zwelinzima Mavavi when he was in COSATU around 2008, when the concept of the hyenas started. And then came when Zuma came in power, talking about mafia state. And then recently we spoke about the state capture. What we see there is the disintegration of the state in the Northwest province because of the leadership instability and the deep-rooted factions. We see that playing out when there are new groups that emerge, and we see it we can call it more of a deep state, or it will be, like we said earlier, a mafia state, when these gangsters emerge and they occupy the vacuum that the executive has left, that the political leadership has left. But again, it is characteristic of the ANC politics. As many years as anyone who's studying the ANC would have remembered, we've understood the ANC to be an instrument in the hands of those that are influential within the movement. So those factions are there. It's a contested field. Those who have the greater advantage will now control the state and be having access to the resources of the state. So now what we see there are those multiple forces that are existing in the Northwest province that want to take a share, but because of the weakness of the state, even at the national level, their failure to protect a vulnerable local government has allowed these predators to come in, and in that process, they now destabilize the municipality and the extent to which it can provide services. So you look at that at the level of the spheres. You may remember the province itself as a whole was put under administration. So it's a very fractured province that, in my view, needed a national government to come in, even the law enforcement officers to come in and try to neutralize those gangs that have captured, in my view, the local government in that sense.
It's going to be interesting to see how this one unfolds, especially, Sysman, when one puts it in the context of December. So really quite a lot to unpack. I think you and I are still going to have more of these conversations. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Do appreciate it. That is Sysman Multoung, North-West University political analyst.